This is going to be a very beginner-friendly guide to Feral Druid in 11.0.5, raiding, so single target, and Mythic Plus, and therefore AoE. Two builds, both will be in the description for the talents. Starting off, let's look at the stat priorities. The kind of overall stats that we're going to be going for is, of course, more and more eye level to get more agility. After that, it's going to be critical strike, which means you can do double damage. After that, it will be mastery, increases the damage done by your cat form bleed and other periodic abilities and finishing moves, which is a lot of our damage, most of our damage in fact. So you can basically see the mastery as a Feral Druid as mastery, flat out, increases the damage of our abilities. After that, it will be haste and then versatility. That is a very, very general guide. Just get a higher eye level and you'll be fine. Moving swiftly on to the actual rotation we're doing from left and to right, this is the highest priority to the lowest priority. I'm going to go through the spells, what they do, when we're going to use them, and then I'm going to explain the talents that underpin why and when we are actually using them. So, let's start off. We, as a Feral Druid, have combo points. You can see I've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 combo points. Some spells are going to generate combo points and some spend them. One of the ones that spend them is Ferocious Bite. And this does, it's going to sometimes go into Ravage. This is because of our hero talents, by the way. So we're going to cast Ferocious Bite whenever we have Apex Predator's Craving. That is this talent down here. Our rip damage has a chance to make our next Ferocious Bite free and deal the maximum amount of damage. What is rip? That is this finishing move. It basically causes a bleed over up to 19 seconds. So let's say I use rip on my target. Now they have that bleed on them. Whenever that bleed is dealing damage, it has a chance to proc our Ferocious Bite. And that is going to be this buff here, making it free so it won't cost any combo points and cast maximum damage. If you ever see a ribbon around it, like the yellow kind of dotted line around your Ferocious Bite, use it. It means it's free and will deal more damage from that proc. And that is your top priority. After that, we want to use our Tiger's Fury. It's on a 30-second cooldown, so we can use it a lot. Instantly restores 50 energy and increases the damage of all your attacks. So you can see here I've got 120 on this little bar, or down here. This is our energy, and you can see when I use spells that, you know, generate combo points, etc., it's costing me energy, and this is going to restore energy. Now I have 120 energy, and with Tiger's Fury, it will instantly restore 50 energy. What I would recommend is that you only use Tiger's Fury when you actually have less than 50 energy. So basically when you're at your absolute lowest amount of energy, so that you're not wasting any. And then you just don't have to worry about overcapping it, because that would be a waste. Then, keep Rip Up on the target at all times. I would ideally say to use this with 5 combo points. Now we're going to be looking at how we are generating combo points and also putting more bleeds on the target. Number 1 is Rake. Rakes them for bleed damage and an additional amount over 12 seconds, reduces their movement speed, and while stealthed, Rake will also stun the target and deal more damage. So one thing I want to say on that, before you go into combat, go in stealth and start with Rake. It's going to do more combo points and do more damage, okay? And that is something called like snapshotting, which I'm not going to go into because it's not really very beginner. But that's going to do more damage. Okay? So we also do have a talent. Where is it? Predator. So not Predator. Sudden Ambush. Same icon. Finishing moves have a chance per combo point to make your next Rake or Shred deal damage as though you were stealthed. So when you use something like Rip or Ferocious Bite, which are your finishing moves, it has a chance to make your next Rake deal damage as if you were in stealth. So if you see your Rake proc, and it's this buff here, Sudden Ambush, you can see it on here, and you can see it on here on my Weak Aura. I would recommend getting a Weak Aura to track these. And I use it, you can see it's consumed it. That was because my finishing move did actually grant me that, meaning it does more damage. So keep up rake at all times. You want to use your Thrash as well as another combo point generator. Strikes all nearby enemies, dealing damage, and a bleed again. And then what we have is Feral Frenzy. You want to use this on cooldown, and it's only on a 45-second cooldown. And you want to have minimal combo points. Unleash a Furious Frenzy, clawing your target 5 times, and doing some bleed damage. It awards the full 5 combo points. I've got 4 out of 5, so I don't really want to use it now because I'll be wasting 4 out of those 5. What I would say to do is at 5 combo points, use your finishing move, and then use Feral Frenzy to get back up to 5, and then use your finishing move. Does that make sense? After that, we have Berserk. This is our main cooldown. You go Berserk, generating loads of combo points. The abilities that do generate them already, like these, are going to generate more. And finishing moves, like your Ravage, Ferocious Bite, Rip, they're actually going to restore 3 combo points generated over the cap. All attack and ability damage is increased. When we're in Berserk, we can also use Convoke, and we can pretty much use Convoke on cooldown. They're both on a 2-minute cooldown. I would use them together. Reason being, Berserk increases damage done, and Convoke channels a load of abilities, as you can see, and they're all going to do more damage if we're in Berserk. And it shows you here the spells that you're going to actually do. It's not just feral spells, it's druid spells. Like Moonfire, you might do a regrowth healing spell on yourself and things like that. After that, use your Rake with your sudden ambush procs if it does not already have the stealth bonus. What do I mean by that? Use Rake here to make sure that it is up on your target at all times, but use it here, so this one here didn't have the sudden ambush bonus. If you then get a proc of sudden ambush, replace your boring Rake with your better Rake, is what I'm saying. We then have Brutal Slash and Shred. These are your 2 filler spells. If Brutal Slash, you can see it has up to 3 charges. Try not to let that cap out. It strikes all nearby enemies, dealing increased damage against bleeding targets. Of course they'll be bleeding. Nearly everything here does a bleed. And generates a combo point. Shred does damage. Again, does more damage against bleeding targets, etc. Generates a combo point. This is literally your filler spell. Let's go through all these again. Use your Ravage whenever it procs. It procs from damage on Rip. Use Tiger's Fury to regenerate energy and do more damage when you're very low on energy so that you don't overcap on energy. Keep up Rake and use your Thrash at all times, keeping those up. And then once you've got no combo points, use your Feral Frenzy on cooldown to immediately get back to 5, and then the cycle starts. Use Berserk and Convoke the Spirits in that order on cooldown. Use any procs that you can see there. Sudden Ambush, look. See, I used it. Use that on your Rake, and then use Brutal Slash and Shred as fillers to generate combo points. A few things to note here from our talents. And by the way, this is the Mythic Plus build. I'm going to show you the single target build. They're very, very similar as well. We're not really changing much for the rotation in either. We have a talent up here called Omen of Clarity. Your auto attacks have a chance to cause you to go into a clear casting state. And that's what this one is here, this little blue icon that you can see, or it's down here, clear casting. And basically your next Shred, Thrash, or Brutal Slash is no energy and deals more damage. TLDR, your combo point generators will cost no energy and deal more damage when you have this. And this will be happening passively. One other talent, which is really, really important, and I actually want to give you an option here. If you were like a super duper beginner and you want to make this more simple, then we have an option here. Or if you want to play it better, then we have another option. So let's go through the complex one first, so then you can see how easy the other option is. This is called Blood Talons. When you use 3 different combo point generators within 4 seconds, so let's say Rake, Thrash, and Brutal Slash. Can you see here I've got 3 stacks of the icon, Blood Talons? The damage of your next 3 rips or ferocious bites are increased by 25%, so your combo point finishes. If you're thinking, oh, that's a bit too confusing for me, that I have to use 3 different, I have to remember to try and use 3 different combo point generators in a row in 4 seconds, you can do something really simple and go for Lion Strength. It's a bit of a DPS decrease, but If you're not maxing out Blood Talons, it's going to be a decrease anyway. Ferocious Bite and Rip deal 15% increased damage. The end. And that's it. 15% damage versus 25, but you've got to do these things in this order, or just a flat 15% overall without having to think about it. Just want to leave that choice up to you, depending on, how you want to play. And those are the main ones I'd say you probably need to be aware of. The rest of the things are happening passively. Hero talents, we're going for Druid of the Claw. Ravage. Sometimes your Ferocious Bite will become Ravage. It's just a better version. At the bottom here, during Berserk, your attacks will also make your Ferocious Bite become Ravage. Regarding the rest of the talents, I don't want to overwhelm you, and I would say to go through them in your own time, especially the hero talents, and some of the other, just kind of look through and see how everything comes together. But those are the main important ones I've shown you today. Now, I want to show you the difference between the single target and the raid build, and then we're just going to go through it one more time to really make sure it sticks. If we go into talents again, can you see we've got this ability up here, Primal Wrath, finishing move that deals instant damage and applies Rip to all enemies within 10 yards. So you know our Rip here that does a bleed on the target? Well, if I go in and I use Rip, cool, there's a bleed on there. See this target over here? Doesn't have it. If I actually use Primal Wrath, what you'll then see is it's applied it to that one and that one. So in Mythic Plus, oh look, and here is your Apex Predator's Craving. So if it procs like this, slotting a Ferocious Bite, you see that? That is this talent here that I showed you through, Apex Predator's Craving. So basically, the main difference between the single target and AoE build is you have Primal Wrath, so you can do AoE rips or single target rips. Well, there is another one. Here we go. In Mythic Plus as well, for AoE, your Rake will also apply to an additional target. So when I use Rake here, it's also on this target over here. So it applies to 2 targets rather than 1. If I show you going into the raid build, ready to come out of combat, not many are changing. Can you see? We do gain Adaptive Swarm, which you can just use on cooldown. We lose the Apex Predator's Craving, so just FYI, you won't get those procs on your Ferocious Bite. And we lose Primal Wrath, and our Rakes no longer attack other enemies. And we gain things like Coil to the Spring, where if you generate a combo point in excess of what you can store, so if you go to like a 6th combo point, your next Ferocious Bite does more damage. And that basically does that instead of Apex Predator. And then we have Adaptive Swarm. Adaptive Swarm, if I show you this, you use it, puts this Vile Swarm. It's a swarm of insects and does some damage, and then it will ping to another target, basically. And that's the only real main differences. We're still in Druid of the Claw for single target. The rest of the rotation is exactly the same. Few other things to note in the spell book. If you need to go into defensive, you can just use Bear Form. That literally is a great defensive on its own. You can do it as much as you want, increasing stamina and armor. Bark Skin is also a really great defensive, just making you reduce damage, etc. Dash is a great movement speed ability. Renewal will actually instantly heal you for 30% of your health. And these are all really good things. In Mythic Plus, we can use things like Skull Bash to interrupt the target spellcasting. We have a Rebirth, which is our battle res, remember, as a druid. We have Stampeding Roar, increasing the speed of our allies. And we have Ursul's Vortex, which slows down enemies. And again, what I would say is when you're more comfortable, just have a look through your spellbook and the talents again and just see, what's what. So before we wrap things up, let's go back into the Mythic Plus build, because that's where I've got my action bars set up. And I just want to show you again the rotation, just to hammer it in. By the way, excluding these huge bars in the middle, because that's just for the tutorial, if you like this UI that I have here, then please feel free to join my Patreon in the description, where I can help you review your logs. You can get VIP access in the Discord, where I can help you one-on-one, and you also get access to a load of macros and things and spreadsheets in my Patreon as well, but mainly the UI and help from me is what people join for. That's in the description. So let's just go through it again. If you do get an Apex Predator's Craving, use your Ferocious Bite. If you're in single target, it's still top priority. When you're really low on energy, use Tiger's Fury. Keep Rip up at all times. Keep your Rake up at all times. Use your Thrash. And try and use your combo point generators 3 in a row. When you are, when you have no combo points, use Feral Frenzy. Use Berserk on cooldown and Convoke on cooldown. Use your Rake if you get a sudden ambush proc. And use Brutal Slash and Shred as your filler. And that really is the rotation. It is actually quite simple. It can get quite complex as a Feral Druid, but once you actually get into it, oh my god, it's so fun. It's one of my all-time favourite DPS specs. I hope that was useful to you. Please subscribe, leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, etc, etc. I do all classes if you are new here, so check out the playlist you now see on screen.